First, you're going to hear the unprocessed raw recording that we started with, and then I'll cut to the final processed sound.
With our comprehensive retirement plans and personalized advice, we'll help you create a clear, personalized plan for cash flow, even when you're not working.
In this video, I'm going to show you how I helped a voiceover artist resolve some room acoustics problems and then process his voice recorded on a Rode NT1 microphone. I'm Lenny B, audio engineer. Let's make your voice sound better. If you record your voice onto a microphone, I can show you how to improve the quality of that recording. And ultimately what that does is helps you make a better connection with your audience, no matter what type of content you're creating. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I helped one of my clients. And I think some of the things that I did for him can also help you. So the audio that we're going to examine and diagnose is from someone who wants to remain anonymous. And if you send me your audio, you can absolutely remain unnamed. That's totally fine with me. But I will tell you that this particular voiceover artist is also a singer, formerly an opera singer. He's working out of his home office. He's got about an 11 by 12 foot room we'll talk about. And he's got a studio set up there. And his acoustic treatment to start was a PVC tent covered in moving blankets. And this is quite common for a lot of people doing voiceovers at home. But he is recording onto a Rode NT1 microphone. This is the 5th generation, and he's going into a Focusrite Scarlett Solo 3rd generation, both completely capable of producing very professional sounding audio. So the first thing that I need to do is get a sample of his raw recording. And the reason why I need a raw recording, and that's just his mic directly to his audio interface, Rode NT1, right to that Focusrite, then to his DAW with no effects, no normalizing. I need a raw recording because that is going to show me the source. It's going to show me what he's working with. Now, when I hear the raw recording, it helps me identify any challenges that he has, and that's what we're going to look at first. Let's listen to his raw recording.
On the late afternoon of 27 October 1858, a flurry of activity disturbed the genteel quietness of East 20th Street, New York City. Liveried servants flew out of the basement of number 28, the Roosevelt brownstone, and hurried off in search of doctors, midwives, and stray members of the family.
Okay, let's take a look at the raw file diagnosis chart. And I've really come up with these 5 little categories, identifiers here. These are the things that I look for when I hear a raw recording, and it helps me kind of focus in on what needs to be resolved before we can process and optimize the sound further. The first thing is recording level, and he's on target. I didn't have to change his recording level at all. So on target, I'll mark that here. He is peaking. His consistent speech is peaking at -6. That's what I shoot for. That's what I suggest all my clients shoot for. That is how I standardize the audio before the processing. The second thing I look at is the recording space, and it's here at the top of the list because it's really important. If you have a recording space that is including reflection sounds in the room, so the mic is picking up pure voice and reflections, that is going to hinder the quality that you're able to get. It's also going to render some of the plug-in processing not as powerful. It's, a good recording void of reflections is going to be a better processed recording. This is, I think, his challenge. We're going to talk more about this. I'm going to give him a 5. It needs to be improved before we can get a good processed recording sound. His noise score, that's, has it got room noise from a computer fan? Is there outside noise of his studio leaking in? I think he's doing pretty good. Usually, I rarely give a score of 10 because you can always improve, but I would say he's at 8 or 9. Let's give him a 9 here. His mic technique score, I think he's doing a good job. He's not too close or too far away from the mic. We could probably improve the mic position, and that's going to work with his recording space, which we'll talk about. But the way he is operating his microphone, how he's moving close and far away from the microphone while he's speaking, I think is pretty good. I don't hear any issues, so let's give him an 8 score for mic technique. And his equipment score, I'd say that's right up there with an 8 or 9. Let's give him a 9 as well. The Rode NT1 is a very low self noise. For the price, it's, I think, one of the best microphones for voiceover on the market. I see a lot of professional voiceover artists using this microphone, and the Focusrite Scarlett line is fantastic. It's a great audio interface, a nice, clean, quiet preamp that can offer you a very professional sound as well. Now, I'm going to give him a good equipment score, but remember, it all depends on the source that we're sending that equipment. Your equipment sound is only as good as the source, and we need to fix his room. This is important to understand. When it comes to voiceover home studios, I think the room issues are really common problems. But when these room problems are resolved, they can actually have the most significant improvement on your final processed voice recording sound. So, the processing is only as good as your room sound. It's really, really important. So what I wanted to do to try to figure out what was going on is I needed to look closer at my client's room and find out, okay, what's his mic configuration? What kind of acoustic treatment, if any, does he have to start with? What are we working with? What's the configuration looking like? And that'll help me not only identify the problem, but reveal some solutions. So let's take a look at what he's working with. So this is the room. It's about a 12-foot by 11-foot room. It's like an office room in his house, and there is no acoustic treatment on the walls. It's a perpendicular square room, and he's got two doors on the right side here. There's another door, so we've got three doors in this room on the bottom right. So he's got blinds, I believe, that are covering the windows, but the rest of the room is just a hard reflective surface. He's got a large desk here at the bottom, and then in the center of the room, kind of towards one of the walls here at the top, is his PVC pipe tent booth. And I wanted to find out how it's configured inside the booth. This blue circle here would be him sitting or standing, and his mouth is pointed towards the green triangle, which is how the microphone is configured, his Rode NT1 pointing to him and his mouth. So you could see where the mic is pointing to in this booth. The first thing we did was talk about how he needed to reduce those reflection sounds, and he took my suggestion. He actually watched my acoustic treatment course, and he purchased GIC acoustic panels. GIC Acoustics is a company that I work with. The sound panels that I have in my room are from GIC Acoustics, and I believe in their products. So he purchased some GIC panels. They were delivered, and then what he did is reconfigured his room a little bit. He moved his PVC pipe tent away from the wall. He moved his desk away from the wall a little bit, and he installed these, I believe they were 2x4 foot GIC acoustic panels, 4 inches thick, and he installed them on the two opposite walls, and you can see they're in gray. These are the panels. They were centered on the wall, and he's got them here on each side. I believe there was 2 extra panels he had that he was intending to put on the ceiling, maybe above where he was, but he didn't install them yet. So I listened to this audio and it sounded good, but we were not hearing what I wanted to hear. I was still getting some of those reflections, and let's look at why. When he was speaking on the microphone, his pure voice was hitting the microphone. Some of it was being absorbed by these panels here, but it was being reflected against the wall with the windows. Some of it was being absorbed, it was reflecting back behind him and then back into the microphone. So it was helping, but it wasn't doing the job that it could do if we reconfigured the panel locations. Again, what we want to do is remove those reflections from being picked up from the microphone. So I want a sound with no reflections from the microphone's perspective, okay? So here's how I suggested he reconfigure his room. The first thing we did was remove that tent and those the PVC pipe tent with the sound blankets. A lot of times those are used to try to isolate, and they're also used to try to remove some of those reflections. But those sound blankets are thin. They do a good job at picking or absorbing high frequencies, but they don't do a very good job with low, mid, and low frequencies. Those GIC acoustic panels are 4 inches thick. They're physically thicker. They do a great job. They're called broadband absorbers. That means they absorb frequencies in the high frequencies, mid, and low frequency spaces, and they're going to capture more in that room. So the first thing I did was, let's get rid of the tent. First of all, he's a big guy, and just being in the tent can get hot. He's got to be cramped in there. It's a little bit confining. And so I think there's a benefit in, he's invested in these GIC acoustic panels. Let's reconfigure them, give him a little more space, a little more freedom in that room. So the first thing we did was remove the tent. And now I thought, let's move those panels so from the mic's perspective, we can pick up much less reflection sounds. And here's what we did. We repositioned the panels, and there were 4 panels that were centered on the wall in the room, but I had him stack them one on top of the other to cover more space on one side, and then we took the panels that were on the opposite wall and did the same thing, we stacked them one on top of the other. So we created this corner where there was very little reflection. And then what I did is have him place himself in the corner, speaking out towards the microphone. And think about what's happening here. His voice now, his pure voice, is hitting the microphone, but his voice continues through the room, hits the opposite walls. It bounces back into that corner, but those broadband absorbers are doing a great job of capturing those reflections in all frequency spaces, high, mid, and low, before they get a chance to go back into the microphone. And one of the key things we're doing here is I'm using the back of the microphone. That's the rejection side of the Rode NT1. I want the back of the microphone to face those reflective surfaces in the room. He also had 2 extra panels, and he hasn't done them yet, but he's going to hang them on top here on the ceiling. So it'll just really, really create a non-reflective zone here in the corner. It's just going to improve it even further. I'm going to play you the difference between the original raw audio recording and then the processed sound so you can hear the difference. Room treatment problems, these reflection issues, are one of the most common problems for home studios with voice recording. I see it all the time with my clients. And that is the reason why I've created my Acoustic Treatment for Voiceover course. It teaches you how sound travels in the room, and it shows you the type of material that you need and how much, where to place it to get that pro voiceover sound. A lot of times people think that it's a more expensive microphone that's going to give them that sound of, really close up, that real present forward sound that you hear on audiobooks, that you hear with professional narrators. But I'll tell you that most of the time, that professional sound comes from a void of reflections. It just gives you that really present, almost the voices in your head type of sound. And you could only do that with acoustic treatment. It has to happen in the source. It has to happen in the room first. Then you can process it to make it sound awesome. Of the courses that I have available at this point in time, my acoustic treatment course I put first because I think it's the most important. If you don't get this right, it's going to inhibit the amount of quality that you're going to be able to attain. No other plugin, no better microphone, no more expensive software is going to fix the problem, as well as having a great sounding acoustically treated room to start with. I'll put the link to this course in the description, and you can get the details at lennyb.com. I'm going to play the difference, and so you can hear the vast difference between the 2 raw recording that we started with and then the process sound. But I want to show you specifically the frequency that I was hearing. I've got a trained ear for this. I'm always listening for these things. I can identify a resonant frequency or a reflection frequency area in a room problem. And this is what I heard in the beginning, but I'm going to show you how EQ can kind of help you not only identify it, but just kind of really put a spotlight on the problem. This is what I was hearing. I'll show you with the EQ. This is the F6 by Waves. And when there's a room problem, those reflection sounds cause an unnatural imbalance. And what I heard was somewhere around the 300 frequency space, there was an overabundance of that frequency caused by those reflections. And I confirmed it, and the EQ here helps me identify it. Let's take a listen.
On the late afternoon of 27 October, 1858,
I could use the EQ to kind of find where that overabundance that I'm hearing is exactly, precisely.
On the late afternoon of 27 October, 1858.
So about 317 is where I feel that major imbalance is happening. And let's listen when I adjust it with the EQ.
On the late afternoon of 27 October, 1858, a flurry of activity
I'll take the EQ off.
On the late afternoon of 27 October, 1858, a flurry of activity disturbed the genteel quietness of East 20th Street, New York City. Liveried servants flew out of the basement of number 28 the Roosevelt brownstone.
When you use the EQ to over-accentuate that frequency, you could really hear it, and it helps identify it when there's no EQ. But this is what helped me confirm that we have to fix that reflection problem in the room. EQ could balance up to a point, but if you're using too much EQ, it's better to fix the problem in the room to begin with. So now let's listen to the unprocessed original raw audio when he was in his PVC tent booth with no GIC acoustic panels. And I want you to hear, and you can maybe identify that resonant sound. And then I'm going to switch to the final processed sound with the mic placement changes. We made that GIC Acoustics corner to really remove as much of those reflections from the mic's perspective as possible, allowing us to get a better processed sound. And you can hear the big difference, how much more clear it is. So I'll play that raw recording, and then I'm going to switch to the final process sound so you can hear the difference.
Planning for retirement? At Fidelity Investments, we understand the importance of securing your financial future. We'll help you create a clear, personalized plan for cash flow, even when you're not working. With our comprehensive retirement plans and personalized advice, you can feel confident in your decisions, so you can go from saving to living. That's the planning effect.
Here are the major concepts I want you to kind of digest. This is what I want you to take away from this video, because I think it can help you in whatever situation you have. These techniques apply across the board when you're trying to improve a voice recording in your studio. Removing reflections from your room will have the most significant effect on your final voice recording quality. That's number one. Number two, mic position can further reduce the chance that those reflections are captured by your microphone. A lot of times we forget that our mics have this wonderful tool built into them, the rejection side of the microphone. That back side of your mic, if you're using a cardioid pickup pattern, is really good at not picking up. So the front of the mic is getting all that detail and picking up your voice. The back of the microphone is rejecting. You could use that, point the back of the microphone towards the wall that may be giving you those reflections that can help improve the voice to reflection ratio. And number three, processing can do an okay job of fixing a poor raw recording. And when I say a poor raw recording, I'm talking about a raw recording that has reflections in it. But processing can do a great job of sweetening a good raw recording, and that's a raw voice recording void of reflections. My effort here was to teach you something that maybe you can apply these techniques and changes today. Where is your mic pointing with reference to your room and maybe the existing acoustic treatment that you do have? Or where is the rejection side of the microphone pointing with respect to the acoustic treatment you may not have? You know, use the back end of the microphone, of your cardioid pickup pattern microphone, to point towards where those reflections may be coming from. And really, the whole effort here is to improve the voice to reflection ratio. A good raw voice recording that's going to sound great processed is void of reflections in all frequency spaces, from the mic's perspective. That's really going to help. The process that I went through here with my client, you could do the same thing with me. You could send me your raw recording, and one of two things is going to happen. And it's free, by the way. I do this for anybody free. You can send me your voice recording. You go to my website. I'll show you in a second how to do that. You send me your raw voice recording, and I'm going to do one of two things. I'm going to tell you, we really can't get a great sound yet. You need to improve this. Your recording level, the diagnosis sheet with those 5 things. I may point to some of those things that need to be improved. I may point you to one of my training courses that can help you further, and then maybe you can resubmit your voice. Or maybe your voice, your raw recording is up to par. I can process it, send you back an example of what that sounds like. That I do for free. And if you're happy with the processed voice sound, you have the option to purchase the custom setting that I create, and we can get that onto your system so you can use it every time you record. What you want to do is go to lennyb.com. If you go to my homepage, right at the top there's a red button that says submit and send me your voice. There's a little form that you fill out, but I invite you to do it, and you don't have to be at a particular level. I think I can help people that are starting out probably the most, but I've got people with hundreds of thousands of followers on YouTube, YouTube creators or gamers or narrators or audiobook creators or just people competing for commercial voiceover. Whatever level you're at, whatever you are creating, the audio, the content that you're creating by recording your voice onto a microphone, I think I can help you make a better connection with your audience. I'm Lenny B. Thanks so much for watching.